Hey everyone, this is Todd Hernsberger, and thank you for joining us for today's Todd Talk podcast. I am your host. I'm also the founder and CEO of Leadwell Solutions, and I'm so happy that you're here. I'm so happy to have on this podcast today a great friend of mine by the name of Bobby Bollinger. We have known each other for many years, and so I'm going to give you a formal introduction, Bobby, but welcome. I'm glad you're here with us.
Hey, great to be here, Todd.
So I got some notes here as far as just kind of introducing you properly, and if I butcher this, you can definitely correct me. But basically, you've been a lifelong entrepreneur, innovator, and your leadership journey actually started when you were 19 years old by opening a valet parking business. That's interesting. And then, of course, your business adventures grew into other types of business, especially in the fitness world, which we'll talk about here momentarily. And then after you started Bollinger Fitness, you actually started in your garage with one single product, and I think your brother Glenn was a part of that process. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
So
Um,
you
yeah,
sold millions of this one product, which obviously was a huge success that launched and catapulted your business career. And you sold the business back in the early 2000s. And after you sold that business, you started a group called the Alliance Consumer Group, and which is best known for the Nebo lighting brand. And by the way, I have one of your Nebo flashlights, and it is high quality. I'm telling you that. And now that is now a global company with hundreds of employees and a lot other types of consumer products. And of course, you're a Christian. You have a faith family, and you're in the community. And you also used to have a radio show called On the Bright Side here in the Dallas Fort Worth area, where you talked about purpose, gratitude, and daily walk with Christ. But today, what I want to do, Bobby, is to talk with you more about drawing on all of these decades of you being in business leadership and what it looks like to lead from the business side as a leader and the good, the bad, the ugly of all that goes into the leadership. So, did I do a good job introducing you?
yeah. There's everything you said reminds me of of another story. So we don't have that kind of time, but yeah,
Oh, okay. I was
that's
going
a
to let you
pretty
say
quick.
it.
That's a snapshot for sure.
Well, I certainly understand. We've known each other for, I would say, about 10 years total. Both go to the same church. We're
Yeah,
both on the board of deacons at our church, very much involved in that level of oversight of all the day-to-day operations of our church. So we have a long history together. And that's the reason I was so excited to have you, Bobby, because you bring a wealth of knowledge, not only to what you've done, the knowledge you brought to our church and the wisdom you brought to our church, but also your own personal businesses that you have run. But at 19, you started out very young and you had a valet parking business. I relate with that because at 19 years of age, being a year out of high school, I was introduced by a friend of mine who owned a jewelry business, and he had multiple locations in the Beaumont and Houston, Texas area. And he was going to be starting a brand new store in a new mall that was close to me. And he asked me to help him get it off the ground, to lead it, to help with the day to day operations, and do all that goes into running a retail store. And so I did that at 19. So I can definitely comprehend the challenges that I had being very young, not having any experience of leading a business of that kind, much less working with a team of people that I would be responsible for. Kind of go back in your history of what it was like at 19 when you started out with your business. What were your leadership skills like then?
well, I guess I didn't really know that I had any leadership skills other than I was elected as the sixth grade president in elementary school. So maybe
Well, there you
somebody
go.
recognized some in me. Of course, I was making promises for some things I couldn't keep when I got elected. I promised uh, Coke machines in every hallway, which I was not able to deliver on, but I got the votes anyway.
That's great.
Um, but through school, I love sports, and I played basketball in high school, and I think that um, I was one of the guys that um, was able to kind of connect and bring the team closer together, and that was, and I did that in the sports as I got a little older. So I like team sports. I liked having a team. So I understood that concept pretty well. I think really I've always said this. I think sports in middle school and high school are really great for young people because it usually there's a lot of discipline required in order to be successful at it, and coaches do that for us, help make sure that we don't it takes work, it's not easy. And so when I had a really tough coach in high school, and I remember thinking when I got out of high school and I was starting to go to college that it all seemed pretty easy compared to what I was put through trying to be a basketball player for this coach. And so I applied myself when I had my first business opportunity. I applied myself in a way like I would have when I was training to be a better ball player. And to me, it was like, most of the guys my age out here, are not willing to make this kind of commitment to try to make this little, idea successful. And so I think that's a good reason for young people to and for parents to encourage their kids to be in sports. But what happened was a couple of major events. First of all, I didn't get that job by myself. My brother already had the job at the fancy restaurant in Dallas, and he kind of saved there. It takes two people to run this parking lot during lunch, and he kind of found a way to get some part-timers until the day after I graduated from high school. Then I had a job with my brother on that parking lot, and even being a valet parking attendant is really good, a good experience. In fact, since I'll tell you in a minute, I had a reason I dropped out of college, but as a valet parking attendant, you to try to maximize the effort you're making, and which is all about tips. Uh, you learn customer service in a little different way, and I think your people skills are honed because you have to learn how to react, in real time and comfortably. And so you build those skills on a parking lot, dealing with people who are in their cars, moving. This was a very busy place where we worked, and so I think I thought about writing a book about everything I know I learned as a as a parking attendant. Um, but it was a good start. And what was interesting is this restaurant. Most of the business leaders, movers and shakers in Dallas and even Texas crossed my path as I was a 19-year-old. And so I saw these well-known business leaders, CEOs of oil companies and the owners of the Southland Corporation, of many restaurateur, entrepreneurs, and everything to sports, celebrities and entertainment. So these people all came through across my path, and it just made me comfortable with the fact that they're all just regular people. There wasn't, after a while of doing that, there wasn't any kind of being in awe of any of these people. It was just, what were they like? How did they treat other people in their path too? And so there was a good experience for that reason. And then what happened was, um, because I get to meet so many people, when they started building there was a couple of big restaurants being built in Dallas during that period. And the guys who were developing that would come into this restaurant. And then because, I guess I don't know if it's because they thought we were doing a good job, or they talked to the owner of that restaurant and said, what about these guys? But they actually offered me the opportunity to manage the parking lot at the restaurant when they opened. And
Wow.
that's how it all started.
Mm.
And what I did was I was actually friendly with a childhood friend's dad was the uh, dean of students at the Bible College out in Waxahachie, Texas. And so I drove out there and sat down with him, and he helped me um, because there wasn't many good jobs out in Waxahachie. And so he helped me recruit a team of guys who, as I started to add parking lots to my business, he would tell me the boys that he thought I could trust to be good employees. And so that's how it all started. And over the next couple of years from when I started that, we ended up with about 10 different parking lots. And I had several dormitories in Waxahachie with the board up and the scheduling going on, and was employing those guys from the Bible College.
So, as a young new leader, very green, leading a team of people now in this business that you've created of parking cars, was your leadership skills considered rough back then? How did you relate with these other guys that were working with you? I'm assuming y'all were all about the same age. Would that be correct?
Yeah,
So what was the
yeah,
dynamic working? Because a lot of people would not want to, when they work with somebody their own age, the respect level isn't there. How did you work with those dynamics?
yeah. It was a learning experience for sure. I didn't see myself. I saw myself more as equals, since I didn't had not learned to know how to get them to consider me, the leader, or even if a better term would have been the way I was trying to manage it was like being the coach of the whole thing. Um, and what happened is some of them were great guys to this day. They're a minister or somewhere in another state around the country, and I still have a relationship with them today. But
Wow.
some of them just didn't have any respect for me
Yeah.
because they actually saw like they're doing the work, and I'm driving around checking on things and getting making money from doing it. And so the typical thing that happened is they were there on a regular basis trying to get to the manager uh, uh, or owner and try to talk them into saying they didn't need me, just let them do the parking lot. So I had mutinies
Yeah.
happening around me coming from the Bible students.
Yeah.
So um, there was a tipping point though, and I knew that I had to make a decision. So I went out there and I basically fired all of them at one. There was only a few that really was. They were all kind of trying to get everybody on this idea that let's just do this on our own, leave Bob out. And but I knew I had the relationship with the owners of the restaurants,
Yeah.
and that they didn't have. I knew that they would support me. So it was a pretty tough, like 3 or 4 weeks after that deal. Most of them came back and made things right and wanted to go back to work. And then the ones that didn't, were out of a job. But that taught me right there is that, when you see the signs coming is the time you know, um, to act versus letting it get and living with that brewing. And so one of the, things that I learned and never forgot was when you recognize a problem, the earlier you deal with it, the
Mm.
better chance of having success with it.
So I've heard for years this topic or this phrase. It says, hire slow, fire fast. I'm assuming you've heard of that, right?
Yeah.
In your dealings over the years, not just as a young 19, 20, 21-year old with your valet parking business and bringing the right people on the team, did you create any type of strategies of becoming smarter as you hired people for whatever the tasks are, the responsibilities were, that you kind of hired smarter so that you're bringing the right people on the bus and that way you have less problems with them? What was your strategy, even in recent strategies of hiring people, the right people for your team?
Yeah, I think I just can just scan through my entire career, starting with some of those experiences there. What I think that I've learned about, just say hiring and firing, is that there's nothing to replace a good team. And so, with that in mind, and when you start to hire, knowing that no one is an island to themselves, your success will never be dependent on any one person, much less any one department. Success in business is always collaborative.
Mm,
So
absolutely.
what really happens is very much like a great comparison to sports. I I have a number of examples where I had a talented person on in a important position, but that person was expected to be a part of the team that knows how to interact with other heads of departments.
Hmm.
And even though that person was individually more talented and had probably even more potential, the chemistry was just not good with the other guys who I was comfortable with, and I wasn't. I knew that uh, I could relate to, and that they were solid team players, and they had talent. And then I would end up having to let go that talented person that we had a headhunter for, and we brought them in, and they checked every box, but they just didn't play well with this particular group of people. And that happened, a half a dozen times in my career, and it made all the difference in the world too. And it's like Glenn, my brother, had a saying. He says, "Not the people you fire that make you miserable; it's the people you don't." And so, it's not a pleasant part of being in business. Uh, Most of the time, my approach to doing that was, in terms of letting somebody like that go, is say that your career can't go anywhere here based on what has happened so far. It's going to be in your best interest to move on. And it's not personal. It's that we have a mission, and the mission requires this type of
Yeah.
teamwork and chemistry, and it's disruptive. And we've identified that you're at a different place. You may at a different level, but you're in a different place than the rest, and so it's not going to work out.
I've always taught, and more recently than in the past, because it's a principle I really just learned in the past probably 5 or so years, is that it's better for leaders who are in the hiring process to hire first for team fit more than skill set, because skills can be taught, they can be learned. Now, of
Yeah.
course, there's obviously some skills that you need some people coming in with skill sets that are already learned, but
Mhm.
the principle being that it's better you find somebody who's more of a team fit with your team and culture than to find
Yeah.
somebody who's highly skilled that doesn't fit the team culture, because like you just illustrated, you can have more problems with somebody who's well qualified for the position as far as skill sets. However, if they don't fit the team culture, you actually create a whole different problem. Would you see the same?
Absolutely. I mean, I learned that diversity in in a group that is typically in the workplace, for instance, product development. You have some engineers and you have designers. That's kind of a typical product development team. And but whenever you bring marketing and you bring sales into that same group, you get a lot more uh, I always made a lot more progress because then you had people come in from a different place in how to sell products to consumers. And so that became our modus operandi from the early days that we
Mhm.
learned in our first line of products in fitness, that we carried all the way through the rest of our career, because you needed that different um, even to the quirky. There's some quirkiness that it goes along in product development, and sometimes it's always good to have that guy. He's kind of off the wall, or lady. That could be off the wall in where they go, and most of the time you're rolling your eyes. But sometimes you add that to, the engineer who's so, practical. He never comes up with a really ingenious idea. He just knows how to take the idea and put it in something that, works. So that diversity has really served, us well through the years, as the, you know, having to take a creative idea into something, you know, uh, legit and, structural, all the way through to I mean, even the packaging design people need to be, if they feel like they're a part of it from the very beginning,
Mhm.
there's such a great pride of ownership whenever it hits the shelf.
Right.
All of them take ownership. And I've always said that some of our most successful ventures, um, we couldn't even remember who had the idea. And that, to me, that was the greatest compliment of success, is that as a team, you were so into it together, you don't remember who said it
Yeah, so it's like all
first.
these different departments that are coming together collaboratively. And I've heard of organizations where their departments were silos. They were their own independent, kind of by themselves. They had little interaction with other departments or other parts of the process of whatever the business entailed. But the greatest success that I have found, and you are illustrating it well, is when you bring all these teams together in a collaborative event of producing something, whether it's a product or service. Everybody's voice matters in the end product. And if I can encourage any of you that are watching this podcast that are maybe just starting out in business, or you're in a business that has all these different silos, and these silo of departments don't communicate really well with each other and they don't meet together collectively, that can be a big problem, can be very challenging. So, Bobby, this is some good
Yeah,
information for people who are listening to this stuff. The silos of departments is not a healthy way for an organization to lead everyday operations.
yeah. There's another thing that was I thought was there's these little quirky things that you learn, but one of the things that I did on a regular basis, that I learned, that I did it by accident probably the first time, but then after that, is no matter where you arrived collectively together, um, once they think that, well, this is what we're going to do, is I would say, I think I think we can do better. And I want you to go back, and I want you to think, after everything we've done here, what's the one thing we may have missed? What's the one thing? Try to get to the back of the brain they haven't hit before,
Yeah.
because what happens is, in the creative side of a business, is you form habits and patterns, and you keep challenge. But the way to come up with great ideas and products is to keep challenging that. And there's just I can't count the amount of times where something else to add to the equation came back in. And it certainly worked in the marketing department where we design packaging, because there was never I approved every package that ever went out the door. Uh, and I was very, nitpicky about a lot of things, because I had done so many of them. And whenever they were finished with it, I would always try to, find at least one or two things to, to go back. and just challenge them to find something else, just like I did with products. I'd try to find something else that would make that a little bit better. Sometimes that last thing was the difference in separating that product from just another competitive product.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to switch gears here just for a moment and talk about dynamics of working with a partner.
Mhm.
Because in the business world, I've always learned the pros and cons of working with a partner in business. And then when you add on top of the partnership, that the other partner is a family member, blood, how does that dynamic work? Now, you and your brother have not only had Bollinger Fitness and with some great success together, maybe you had some other family members involved in that business as a family business. And then, of course, it evolved into where you are now with your current business. And I'm assuming you're still working with Glenn in that business.
Right.
Tell me about how that family dynamic and just the partnership in general, the good, the bad, the ugly, how those dynamics work.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a subject all to itself in family businesses. I think family business can be uh, the most uh, powerful and have the most potential. A strong family business, there's power in unity. That's the key to it. Uh, a family business can also be like your worst nightmare, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because families, the dynamic in family sometimes is just going to make it so difficult to do it. There's all kinds of reasons why. I mean, some of them are easy to understand. And I mean, they just one person, they're all on equal terms, and yet one person doesn't pull his weight, or one person, thinks that he is, but the rest of them doesn't. Um, or the fact that they never were really that close as a close-knit family to begin with. And sometimes when they are close-knit family, it could even explode because it becomes, you know, too personal and too volatile. So there's all kinds of, you know, you know, warning signs about it. I think the difference is, well, in our case, the difference was we had, I didn't finish some of the story, the early story. Our father was killed in a, a accident whenever I was 19,
Wow.
or I think maybe almost 20. And it was a single accident, just a total accident. Literally, a strong wind, blew his pickup off of a side of a mountain. That's
Wow.
and
Wow.
it was just shocking scenario. He was 53 years old.
Mm.
So I was parking cars. Me and Glenn were parking cars, and there was a need to try to figure out how to even make more money than we were making parking cars, which prompted, adding parking lots, and also prompted anything else, other creative ideas, which is how we came up with the first product idea to attempt. And but so but our mother um, was a God-fearing mother who was on her knees about her kids, and was um, the kind of mother who we respected and we would do anything for. And now she's, widowed. And so we became a very close family, at that we already were, but we were even more so after that happened. So you have that, and then you have that we played sports together. Glenn was 3 years older than me, but we were everything we did, we were almost the exact same level. So when we played ping pong, it was a tough act. Played tennis, we played basketball, and we played on team sports together. And so we became really, they said, it's hard to be closer than a brother. And so the key to our partnership was a couple of things. One of them was we had exactly the same mindset of in a partnership. Like we wouldn't have we grew up with a like I said, with a mother who was um never asked for anything, never wanted a position in the company, but was always there supportive of us, you know. And so we had just grew into a situation where there was total equality. You would never, when we started the company, you would never dream of abusing the company. That you would never dream of not being full disclosure on everything you were doing on your different areas, and so those habits were very strong from the very beginning. And so we went through our whole lives where there was total trust and disclosure about, we both had a lot of responsibilities in our business. We all had plenty of people that reported to us. But we knew that we were on equal footing with the business, how well the business did and all that. So it was, like I said, but it was really powerful to have, and ultimately our brother Ron entered into it too when my older brother, he became head of operations after we'd been in business for 15 or 20 years. He came in and was with us the next 20 and 30 years. And we had the same situation with him. So it was we were just always thankful for it, and our we had that kind of relationship where we didn't worry about what the other one was doing. We basically we met and communicated what we were all doing, and everybody had what could weigh in on it. That person the one who's in charge of it gets the last word, but the brothers certainly could have an opinion on what the other brothers and what we were going to do.
So y'all
That kind
trusted
of
each other.
a business was we always gave that connection between the three of us more power than three people to be in unity like that. And so it probably is rare, as I speak to people through the years that say, how did you do this with your family? I wouldn't have done it any other way. I mean, I couldn't take credit for it for sure without my brothers. They allowed me to do what my strength was, and I did the same to them.
So you knew where each other's lanes were, and you didn't try to get in each other's lanes. You know where your boundaries were. You definitely had opinions and thoughts for each
Right.
other. But
Yeah.
what happened when y'all disagreed? Did y'all have any major significant disagreements on things that just was blown way out of proportion? Or did y'all have a system to where y'all kind of work through those differences of opinions?
Yeah. I mean, of course we had disagreements. Um, but whenever after my older brother came into it, it was kind of like, two out of the three are on the same page. It was a fair thing to give into it. But as far as Glenn and I were concerned, it was rare. It was rare. And the truth is Glenn had just as much good input into a lot of my area of the business. It's just that, I loved it. And he, even though he would have enjoyed it too, he was better at, the finances and dealing with you know, the, the bigger picture of positioning the company and major spending on things that we needed to do, investment, dealing with the banks and all that. So he had those skills that that, that I was more uncomfortable with. I really wanted to immerse myself in the marketing, sales, and product development side. And so I had the fun job, and they let me have it, but that didn't mean that their input wasn't as valuable as mine. It's just that I got to do it. And so it was fair to listen to them whenever I decided especially if I needed to spend a bunch of money on something, that was when we would have some pretty good debate, right? I better be able to sell the idea.
Right. So your team, your leadership has grown from a 19-year-old of this young business leader to now, decades later, you still have a team, but your team is much larger now. You've grown as a leader, you've grown as a business thinker. The dynamic of managing and leading a team of like 500 people versus 10 or 15 guys as a parking lot company, valet
Mhm.
company. How did you navigate managing, leading such a large number of people over years? Because it's impossible for you to stay in every part of the business when you grow so large and so successful. What
Yeah.
systems did you have in place?
Well, I think it's I would have to say it's an evolving thing, and it's still evolving today.
Mhm.
But again, without the older you get, the longer you're in business, if you're a 25-year-old in business, and if you could imagine yourself being 50 or 60 years old of doing something, then you can trust that 60-year-old is telling you that your people matter. You know, so much of the time when your ambition at 25 clouds your judgment in terms of where you're wanting to get the business, and whether it's about the size of the paycheck you're wanting to get or the recognition that you want to get. Those things have a bigger mind share of your thinking at 25. But when you're 60, you didn't get there because of that. You got there because you ended up with people that you found a way in your business model, your business formula, that you're taking care of those people, and you have spent time with them, and you have respect in their abilities to manage and run that part of your business and manage other people. And you know that if you don't appreciate it, and if you don't have some wisdom to guide them sometimes with it, then you ultimately won't be as successful as you always hoped. And
Mhm.
I think that's one of the great pieces of advice from someone like me who, because I started so young, has 50 years of experience doing the pretty much, a lot of things in the marketplace, that I didn't learn these lessons. The last business that we put together was by far the most successful one. And it's because we built the business model on considering our people as important as our customers.
Oh, so
But
good.
by teaching the people to treat the customers
Absolutely.
great. Um,
Great principle.
so
So I'm big on healthy leadership. I've
mhm.
been connected with leaders that I worked for, and I was under their authority that were fabulous leaders, learned so many great things from them, and I've had a very few that were horrible leaders, horrible bosses. What is your perspective or even a definition of what a healthy leader is, and what does that healthy leader look like to you?
Okay, I think a healthy leader is someone who the people that work for him or her can respect, um, and genuinely like. And sometimes I think as we're coming up, we're not sure that you're going to get that. You might get respect, but they might like you,
Hmm.
or they might like you and not respect you.
Hmm.
But the real goal for you as a leader is to try to be a genuine enough person to listen. I like to talk. I think I have something to say to my people, but I've learned to listen to them, um, and invest in them, invest my time in them, and want to bring them along to be a part of the success. I mean, the greed fact, we had this saying that came out of my area of the business where, take the most successful business model that we had was with when we built the Nebo, we built the Nebo brand first, and then we made acquisitions, and that's how we ended up as the Alliance Consumer Group. And we built it by getting the people to love their job.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how do you do that? You take the greed factor out.
Mm-hmm.
We had a product line that had tremendous profit margins. And the reason why is not because there's that much margins in the flashlight business, but because two reasons. One is we were building everything we were launching had features and stuff that the others didn't have, so there's no way to really tell what it should be worth. That was one of the business strategies. Always be bringing out new stuff, so it can't be compared to anything else. There you can have extra profit margin. But our business model gave the room to share the profit, especially with the sales department, to a level where even though we could have made more money on the product by being over the top in terms of the way that you can earn money by selling our product, it drove the energy and it drove the enthusiasm, and it made the people love the company because of it. And that kind of it created momentum, created excitement. It allowed us to do all kinds of things for our customers at the same time, which just made our employees, love the company more. So if I had learned this earlier in my career, whatever, I was the first round in fitness we call it the fitness wars era, because mass retailers is who we sold in that day, Walmart, Kmart, Target, Sears, those kind of people. And it was very competitive. And in fact, if you didn't have intellectual property to protect you, those customers the very customers you're selling would be knocking off your product to sell it to their customers. So it was a very tough industry, and you didn't have the margins to do these kind of things that we wanted to do. We found that in the independent world, like you have with franchises like Ace Hardware and Batteries Plus and all these kind of people. They're big companies, but each store is a franchise owner. And so when you can actually talk to that owner, and we were able to give them new products that they had not seen before, and we'll have enough profit margin that we could share it with our people. So I think the message here is, you want to be successful, take the greed factor out of it and have a business model that if you grow it, if you can grow it, then you're taken care of as an owner, by a huge multiple of what you would believe ever possible. But to grow it, you've got to have an army of motivated and happy and people driven for a success that they've never had.
Yeah.
And it's hard to find a business model that really fits you, depending on the industry you're in, but there was no substitute for it if you can. And that's why I promote that a lot, because in getting out, we wouldn't have developed this model were it not for living in what I call the fitness wars for 30 years, where it was like, pulling a sword out and fighting your way to the shelf. And sometimes there wasn't hardly any profit in it by the time you got it there.
Mm-hmm.
Even though you were selling, hundreds of thousands of something, it still was very low profit. Mm-hmm. So we tried to say, let's find an arena where there might be some, and let's just try to make our employees, as happy to be here and work as we are. Yeah. And if you can take care of the people, the old saying is they'll take care of you.
That is so good, so good. So we're coming down to the end of the podcast, and I want to ask you one last question. And if there are leaders watching this podcast, whether they're young and just starting out, very green, or even seasoned leaders, some even midway through leadership life, what is one, maybe two nuggets that you would offer to these leaders who are not only leading the business side, but I'm talking about leading the people in the business? Do you have any great advice for them in closing?
Well, thanks for having me today, by the way. I've enjoyed talking to you. I have the opportunity to speak to young people sometimes who ask me similar questions. And the one that comes to mind the first is there's a scripture, Matthew 6:33. It says, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. And my mother uh, lived to be 89 years old. She worked at our company until she was 85.
Wow.
And the reason she was there, she never had a position, and she never wanted, stock in the company, even though, she had some, but she didn't ask for anything. She was the human resources department. We had one person in human resources, and it was mom, Mrs. B, she was called. And what happened, the way she ran human resources was she wanted to know every single employee, and she wanted them to feel free to knock on her office door and come in and tell him whatever their problem was, and she was going to pray for them.
Wow.
And she knew them, and usually she knew their troubles, and she knew their children, and she knew that the company cared for those people, knew the company cared for them because of my mother.
Hmm. So having
Oh,
God a part of the business strategy
no.
is, as a believer, Christians, is of utmost importance in your opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. Um, well, for one thing, we give God the credit for, inspiring us with the business ideas that we had, which we don't feel like we deserve some of the success, some of the crazy success stories we have in our some products that we made through the years. Were just pure inspirations that we believe that God gave us. And he was just very good to us. And we tried to be, we tried to live that way, um, to honor him and, honor our mother's, legacy in the company. And I just think that young people today, um, whatever success they're going to have, it really is fairly meaningless without what without knowing Jesus Christ
Yeah.
and recognizing that there's more to life than money.
Agree.
The significance that you're going to end up having when you get through with your career
Yeah.
won't have anything to do with money.
Yeah.
The significance would be,
Great.
what kind of man or woman you are,
Hmm.
and what's going on with your family and your children and grandchildren,
Mhm.
and are you proud of what you did in your job, in your work?
This is such great information. I think we can probably do more podcasts on these subjects we've talked about, but I want to thank you for your time, all your wisdom and talent, not only that you've given and poured into me personally, our church, and so many other business leader entrepreneurs that are probably in ask you for your time. But thank you for being on our podcast. I'm just privileged to have you, Bobby.
Well, it's been great talking to you today, and I feel the same way about you. You're a great leader, and you're a great asset and brother to us at our church in leadership.
Well, thank you.
So thanks for having me today.
It's a privilege to serve, and know you can say the same thing. So thank you for joining us on today's podcast. If you want to know more about me and my organization, Leadwell Solutions, you can go to my website at leadwellsolutions.us. You can read all about me and the services that we offer there. You can also join us on any of my other social media platforms, which is under ToddTalk.Leader, ToddTalk.Leader, and that's going to be on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Great to have you again, Bobby. Everyone, have a great day. Be blessed, and we'll see you on the next episode of Todd Talk.